Yeah, I got that right turn. We're good.
Let's meet up at the compound, group up.
At 10-4. Yeah, for sure, dog. Good, little driver, straight on through.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Flyby Racing race recap for the 2025 M.O.R.E Aero Metal Stamping Spring Shootout. Today we're going to talk about the race that we did in truck number 2069. We're going to kind of go over some of the road and the path to get there, all the trials and tribulations, and where we kind of screwed up everything along the way, and talk about how we did and what our future plans are for that. Start us off there. We're kind of going to start with Justin talking about kind of the background on why we even decided to do all this.
Yeah, so we ended up. I purchased the truck in January of 2024, even though I said I wasn't going to buy any more vehicles. I made it a
Sounds
whole
about right.
2 weeks into the year before I went and bought it. I got a really good deal on it, and it was one of those Saturday spur of the moment type of things. We went and picked it up. Ended up picking up fiberglass at the same time as buying the truck. Got it home and decided we were going to sit on it. Wasn't going to touch it until we had enough parts and stuff that we felt comfortable starting to cut the truck apart, so we weren't taking up shop space, and just I didn't want to have a truck sitting here torn apart without being able to work on it. We still had the whole desert season pretty much at that point, and then finally got enough stuff where we all felt comfortable of like, cool, let's pull it in, rip it apart. Uh, how we got about to that was we wasn't our first go around at us trying to go race a class 2000 truck. Um, Probably 2008, right out of high school. This guy had a four-cylinder Dakota that we started cutting up, and
We definitely had a dream of racing class
yeah,
2000
and
at the
it turns
time.
out when you make minimum wage, it's
Yeah,
real hard to build a truck.
being broke
Um,
kids and the better part of reality got
but
the
we did,
best of us.
yeah, we did start building the truck, as you can see. Uh, it got a bed cage, and that was about as far as we got.
Got a windshield kicked out.
Yeah, we went and drove the truck around a little bit like that in the desert.
I think
Thought
that
it was a trophy truck, and it was definitely not.
I think that picture is Devil Slides at Akatia.
Yeah,
Yeah, no windshield. We learned the lesson about if you kick a windshield out, you got to take the back window out too, because that acts like a parachute.
yeah.
Turns out you just get slower.
So that happened. That's kind of where we came from on this. So obviously we did not go race that truck, as could not afford to even build the truck at that point. So fast forward almost 20 years later, had all the parts saved, had the truck ready to go. It's parked right here in the shop actually. Started pulling it apart middle of August in 2024, and every weekend pretty much I was in here, he was in here, we had friends in here. Everybody was in here just ripping on the thing. We wanted to try to make the last more race of 2024 just to take the truck out. That did not happen. Everybody that's built the truck knows that you set a deadline and you don't always hit those deadlines.
When
Uh,
there's the fun whole, 80% of your effort is done very quickly. It feels like now the last 20% ends up taking 80% of the time.
and that's exactly how this went.
That's exactly how that goes down.
Wiring took me a lot longer than I wanted. Plumbing the truck. But we
All,
got
all the stuff that isn't really pretty stuff to
no
post on Instagram and isn't
all,
fun,
all the
cool
boring
stuff. Yeah, all
stuff
the boring
that
stuff.
nobody show. Not a lot of builders will show you the last 20% where you can spend 4 weeks working on something and it doesn't look like anything got done, which is the unfortunate part, but it got finished. Um, the last, or probably the second weekend of December, which was just in time to take the truck out to Akatia for New Year's. It survived a whole 2 weeks out there, which was awesome considering the truck had 3 miles to go from here to my house of a shakedown to make sure it ran. Um, little basics on the truck. It's 94 Ford Ranger, extra cab, 2.3 liter 4-cylinder making a whopping 98 horsepower, which
When it was new at
yeah,
the
when it was
crank,
new.
let's be clear.
So we'll get into that a little bit too. I ended up thinking in my head that I wanted it 4-wheel drive. It started as 2-wheel drive, so I built a set of drop-down brackets to convert it to a Dana 44, and that seemed to work pretty good, but also not so great in our first race. I started off with a set of F31 Beavers and realized very quickly that that was way too soft. So ended up getting lucky and trading those for a brand new set of G50s, which are a lot closer to what that truck wanted. A little fine tuning. We're going to send the leaf springs before the next race out to Deaver, get those tuned a little closer to the truck and get them rebuilt, make sure they're all good to go. The truck's running, I want to say, yeah, 12-inch coilover and bypass in the front, both 2.5s. The rear is a 2.5 18-inch triple bypass, which works great for playing, not so great for racing. We ended up getting those shocks really, really hot. And towards the end of our lap, they were not so happy. You could definitely feel they were going away. There's a lot of shock fade there. So some plans. We'll get into those two plans on what we're gonna upgrades hopefully for the truck before the next time we try to take it out. Uh, Aside from that, obviously it's got a full cage. It's all race legal. But it's a really very simple truck. We tried to keep it as simple as possible, easy to replace stuff if we needed to, and see how cheap we could go racing for the
As
most
many
part.
AutoZone parts as you could put.
Yes, AutoZone is our
Just put full size truck stuff on it. And we
our
get it
not
AutoZone.
sponsor, but
Yeah.
our parts
It's our
program.
spare parts program for sure. Because we ended up doing Dana 44 beams without the 4-wheel drive running train in them
Yeah,
as part of the front suspension.
I built a rib system that bolts into place of the diff, trying to keep weight down and not wanting to, which unfortunately happened if smoking the beam. If I didn't want to smoke a whole center section, so we built a rib that bolted in place to make the beam strong, which it did its job. That didn't fail, but the rest of the beam was not so happy about hitting a rock, which we might as well jump into that. Race day, we had planned on getting there around noon, got there a little after, the day before, which in hindsight, the next race we will get there probably a lot earlier than that, if not the day before, because we were very limited on where we were going to set up our pit and selection of a spot, which
I mean, to give this context, we've done a ton of dirt bike races. We've gone to a ton of other races in support of other teams. This has never been an issue before. We show up last minute to a dirt bike race, roll up to the start line, have a good time. We show up as long as we're in time for tech. We generally have a spot to put the camper, go to the hotel, whatever we're doing. The limited pit and parking space at M.O.R.E kind of caught us by surprise when we
I was
pulled up for
also not
sure.
expecting that many people to show up to that race.
There was a lot.
I want to say there was somewhere around 85 entries, which was pretty awesome to be part of. That there was so many people, but getting a better pit spot next time's on the list of things to do. Um, we got there, set up. We took my fiance's pretty course actually really well, and it's got more it's got more race miles now than the race truck does.
Technically, yeah.
But once again, also next race we're gonna try to
Try to pump those rookie numbers
remedy
up.
that. Our whole thing going into this race was to finish and not get last. We accomplished one of those.
Yeah, we got 102. That's 50%. That
which
rounds
is not
up.
terrible.
That rounds up.
This was very much going into it as a let's just try to finish the race. It's a learning experience. We've done a bunch of pit work for other teams. We've gone racing in Mexico, but it's never been our race vehicle, our whole program. We've supported and run a bunch of programs, but never been the driver.
Which we'll get into, but that in itself was a whole weird, different experience of a sudden crash with reality for sure.
Jumping in and being like, "Oh man, I have the steering wheel. I'm not
have
setting,
to do this.
I'm not setting somebody else up for success. I hope I set myself up."
Yeah.
Which, I mean, everything else on the truck worked awesome. The prep work we did, I'm hoping that would have survived. if we had,
I think if we wouldn't have hit
yeah,
the rock, we would have at
the
least got a
truck
few laps
ran
in.
the truck ran cool the whole time. It had good oil pressure. It never did anything weird.
It wasn't bottoming out. The course wasn't too harsh
Yeah,
on it.
the
Even with the
truck.
shocks when they got hot
Yeah,
in the rear, it wasn't blowing
yeah.
through
With
it
the
too
shock
hard.
fade, even the truck was still handling good. We were very much limited by the horsepower,
Yeah.
which
I
future
mean,
plans
probably
for that.
also what saved us too at the same point in time,
Yeah,
right?
not,
It's
not the lack of being able to go
yeah,
fast.
140 cubes of fury is not enough to break components. Was
No.
kind of the plan there.
But going through tech was pretty easy. It was same thing. Gone through tech with like score and stuff like that. Never done a more race, which was awesome. The dudes running tech were super helpful with
Yeah,
stuff
those
and
guys are
going over
great.
what they were looking for and what. Luckily, nothing that they found we needed to change, which was pretty awesome. I stressed myself out pretty good on like going through the rule book. I don't know how many times looking at like what am I missing? Do I
I
have
mean, in
everything
your
checked
defense,
off?
we've gotten bit by score,
Yeah,
right? We've been at tech in score
we've been
2 hours before it
yeah,
closes, like
and
about to get
running
screwed.
around trying to make
Yep.
stuff work. This time, not so much, which is awesome. Racing with more was pretty cool. The fact that race entry fees aren't crazy expensive. Anybody can pretty much afford to go do it. It was awesome. It was a great
Yeah.
experience. We were definitely going to be back, going racing some more.
And those more is definitely there to get you your foot in the door, get you racing. They're not there to beat you down, and try to throw a rule book out with you. If you got an issue at tech, honestly, those guys are going to help
Yeah,
you and figure
it's
a way to get
being a
through it.
crazy safety thing.
Yeah.
Which, if you're showing up and you're not ready for safety, that's one thing. But yeah, we were ready to go. It was pretty awesome to like finally be able to do that. Sitting on the starting line was pretty cool. Strapping in and getting ready. It was pretty weird, but it was lifelong dream to go out and do that.
Yeah, I mean, right at the start line for sure. Right at staging, we were about to go to the start line. There was a funny clip in it where I think for both of us, it really hit.
Yeah, we're waiting right before the flag dropped. We're kind of like, oh god, and then as soon as the flag dropped, it was one of those like, man, we've been wanting to do this since high school. It's taken a couple of years, but we could go do it. You know,
Oh shoot, you ready? Gonna do some high school shit? High school shit.
obviously, we were pretty pumped. I was surprised how excited I was and how pumped I was, but how calm I actually
Once it started,
kept. Yeah,
yeah, as soon as it started,
sitting in line watching all the trucks take off in front of us, I was like, oh man,
for me in the passenger seat leading up to it, it was weird. And I know I had like a weird reaction with my wife. Up to that point, it was just like any other race where it's like planning, prepping for everyone else. Make sure everyone else is set up. Make sure the team's set up, the drivers are set up, the truck's set up. We have the safety stuff, blah 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 blah, all this typical stuff. And then I got in the passenger seat, and my wife reaches in and starts helping me get harnesses and stuff on. And it was in that moment where I was like, "What are you doing?" And it all clicked, like, "Oh, wait, I'm in the car now. Normally I'm helping put harnesses on her or someone else. Like, oh, I'm the other guy now. Oh, we're gonna go do this
yeah,
now.
it was definitely a weird thing, but it was
It
cool.
was surreal for sure.
We started. I wanted a rear start just because I knew we're underpowered. First race,
It's the first race.
let's just get the truck out there and see. We were third from rear, which was nice. It let us get a little feel of like getting past, which happened. I think the first truck caught us within the first 3 miles.
Yeah, it was soon.
His truck was way
It was
faster,
moving.
and I mean, as soon as he passed us, he was gone. Kept cruising, through that first lap, and I think Helton caught us like probably 6 miles in, which same thing. Like that Helton's truck works amazing. He's definitely got that thing working good. He caught us and passed us and drove right out of our life, which put
Yes,
us
right on.
in last place, fairly quick, but I wasn't that concerned with it. I kind of figured that was where we were going to end up. I tried to keep up with him, and that little 22R definitely moves. We were not
Well,
keeping up.
and I mean, props to Helton and what he's doing with his kid, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
how cool is
yeah,
that? That dude's got basically a duplicate of the truck he used to race
yeah.
out there
It's
on course with his kid. Like that's just so rad.
almost same, but just couple little kinks worked out in that thing, and a little bit bigger tire, but I have I have the poster of SY2 sitting in my
Yeah.
garage, and I'm like, yeah, that
When Helton passed us, I was stoked. There was a little bit of
yeah.
fanboy moment of like, man, that's that same
It,
dude talking to him on Desert
yeah,
Rangers
definitely from
back in
back
the
in the
day.
day,
Like,
being like, oh man, it'd be cool to go race those dudes, and now
yeah.
here he is kicking my ass.
I'm pretty sure there's a clip even of me just like as he's passing yelling Gravedigger into the
Yeah.
intercom. So it's just like, oh man, I can still picture his Desert Rangers little avatar logo
Yep.
in my head, right?
Uh, so kept cruising. It was all the truck was working pretty well. Obviously, could have used a little extra speed, but the truck was working. We were doing good. You know, we were kind of worried through the pre-run, like, oh, some of these hills are going to be hard on the truck. Just it doesn't quite have the grunt to pull the truck around itself in a in second gear. You put it in first, and it wants to sink itself.
Well, some of those like square edge cliffs, everyone else who was
Yeah,
on that course, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. That first lap, was it race mile 11 or so, somewhere in there, we were like dropping into the canyons and valleys and
yeah.
up and over was hard on the
It was
truck.
one of those like, well, we're gonna have to just hit these
Yep.
and just let it keep going. The truck was working good. We ended up passing. I think one truck broke right off the bat. I'm not sure. I think we passed Bailey at like race mile 8.
It was just after
Yeah, race
one of the
mile 8,
big.
race mile 9. Got past him. Sucked to see him broke on the side of the road because I know that dude's super fast. Kept cruising, and then right after that, we dropped down into one of the washes. And when we pre-ran, I had paid attention to it and noticed that it was kind of soft right there, and there were some big rocks. And just in my head coming down, it was just a quick mistake on my part on going. I should go right here and go a little outside, not hug the inside. And I got to the bottom and was like, "Oh, don't get stuck. Just go inside. You'll clear all these rocks, no problem." And one rock that looked small. I mean, it looked like a little guy, and it ended up being a
It
really
was
big guy.
deceiving.
Yeah,
Like it looked like a small rock in the sand, but it was a boulder buried by some
yeah.
sand.
We had if I had maybe an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches more ground clearance right there, probably would have missed it if I would have,
If you were in the Bronco on 37s or 40s, you'd cleared it for sure,
yeah.
right?
If I would have, skirted it a little one way
Yeah.
or the other, I probably would have been okay. Unfortunately, I ended up catching square in the center of the diff, this big rock, and it threw the truck in the air, and I was like, oh man, that
We
didn't feel so
It was
great.
definitely a good oof in the truck when we hit it. Like we felt it and we're like,
Yeah,
oh, that
but
was a
I
rock.
was like, oh, whatever. Like the truck's still steering, the truck's still going. We're fine. And at that point, I couldn't feel, and I mean, really can't hear anything with, helmet and headset and stuff on.
You're
But,
fighting the wheel so much at that point.
yeah,
You
I
don't
was like,
know.
oh man, it feels kind of weird. Like the steering, maybe we hit the steering. Maybe that's what that was. The truck was kind of pulling a little weird and doing some stuff. But I was like, whatever, man, we're still racing. The truck's still a truck. It's still driving. So we kept cruising, and I mean, we were smashing some big rocks with the truck. Uh, Shout out to Tenzer for making a decent tire because I definitely hit some stuff. And Method uh, did not have a flat, which was awesome. There's some marks on the sidewall. It didn't, hurt the tires, but you can definitely tell we were hitting stuff.
For also how many rocks and stuff were out there, the tires didn't like chunk
Yeah,
or
the
shred
tires
anywhere,
look.
which was kind of surprising to
Once
me.
again, that might be the lack of horsepower and not being able to spin them, but no tire looks like it's any worse for the wear. Nothing's doing
Yeah,
anything
they're
weird.
starting the next race.
Yeah,
For sure.
they
Those tires
all
are going on the
they're
next
all still
race.
holding the air. Nothing's bad. We're like, cool, keep cruising, hitting stuff. Truck's running pretty awesome. You could feel the rear shock starting to fade a little bit. And I, obviously during my prep before this race, we'd done a full rebuild, good shock oil, good Schaefer's oil in there. Adjusted all the nitrogen to a little bit higher than I would usually run it, hoping to fight off the fade a little bit more, knowing that a 2.5 in the back was probably not going to be enough. And I mean, it held on for a while. Not until the last maybe 2 miles of that lap was
Yeah.
I like, oh man, these are
Well, it was the fast sections going through some of the whoops where we were
yeah.
actually able to get some good speed going too.
The truck looked awesome in that stuff. It was when we started slowing down, I was like, oh man, there's not a lot of these shocks
Yeah.
left. And even in my head then, I was like, oh cool. we'll still get around the track and
Yeah.
we'll look at upgrading later. Once again, this was just a let's get the truck out there for as few dollars as possible and see if we can get our money to fun ratio. It's more fun, less money.
Yeah, smiles to miles
Yeah.
ratio on this thing for sure.
Now, we got that first one out of the way. The truck needs some money, which will make the smiles go higher. Whatever. We were coming back around and we're like, hey, we should probably pull into the pit. The truck's kind of steering weird. I want to
I
make
mean,
sure.
the only issue before we got to that, before we got to the
Oh,
pit, we lost a spare tire. That
yeah.
was the biggest
One
thing
of the
we had to
spare
deal with.
tires definitely, and that was probably a little bit on my part. I went through and checked everything, and I must not have had the tire seated all the way. It didn't. Luckily, it didn't come out. I saw it in the rearview mirror starting
Yeah.
to wiggle,
It just settled in a little
and the
bit.
strap fell off of it. We stopped, as quick as I could, got out, threw the strap back over it, restrapped it in. Was like, cool, let's keep trucking. We're coming back around into the pits, and we're like, oh, debating on it. Like, should we stop? Should we not stop? We ended up like, no, we should stop.
I needed an excuse to get out and go pee.
Yeah.
I had not
So
planned for
somebody
this
didn't go to the bathroom
appropriately.
before we
I
started
had
this
not
race.
planned appropriately.
But I was like, yeah, we're in last place already. Well, we're not in last place. We're in last physical place on the track. Let's stop real quick. Just give a once over on the truck. Make sure nothing's crazy that we can't see. He jumped out. I jumped out. The team was looking over the truck, and they're like, "Oh, it looks pretty okay, pretty okay." And then I just out of the corner of my eye glanced down at the front suspension and was like, "Wow, the tie rod clearance to the diff looks a little different than it usually does." And started looking around. And was like, "No, it's kind of pushed." And then looked down and noticed that the radius arm had folded around the diff rib I made, pushed the beam back probably 3 inches, and was hard resting on the bracket. And I was like, "Oh, I don't think the truck's going to want to go a whole lot more because we have about
We
2 inches of up travel before
Yeah.
it just."
We were essentially using the engine cradle as a bump stop at
Yeah,
that point.
I was like, "Oh man, that's why the truck was, feeling a little weird." I was like, "Yeah, it's that's it. I don't want to go destroy the
Yeah.
the rest of the truck just to say we went further." I'm like, "We'll jump back in. We'll cross the finish line."
Oh, and I mean, honestly, luckily you kind of had the wherewithal in that moment to be like, hey, we can limp it across the finish line because we had technically crossed
Yeah, we
the first lap
we
finish
still
line
weren't
at that
on.
point.
We still hadn't completed a first lap, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, we're like a half a mile. We can." I feel
We can limp it
confident.
through.
Obviously, the truck's made it this far. It's got another half a mile in it. We'll just cruise, cross that, cross over the start finish, get one lap in, so we get a time, and just hey, we finished a lap. Finished that lap, brought it back. Looked over the truck a little bit more before we did anything else, and we're like, cool. Nothing else on the truck. Nothing's leaking. The shocks are super hot, and I know a lot of people, have their
Have their
their
opinions
opinions
about
about
FOAs.
FOA, but
We've had overall really good luck with them.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've pulled mine apart and rebuilt them, and I mean I've been running FOAs since I was one of their first.
Yeah, back when they first came
Yeah,
out.
I bought one of their first sets of bump stops, one of their first sets of coilovers. I've had them for tons of years and never had crazy problems with them. And if I did, one of the first sets I bought, they had the leaking problem. I called them up and they said, "Don't worry about it." We shipped them back. They fixed them, sent them back out to us. So I've never been that shy about running them. I rebuild all my shocks anyways. I've had Kings before, and Kings are amazing. They
Yeah, for sure.
great shock, but same thing. I've never had a shock that I've not pulled apart. I've had Foxes, Bills. I've pretty much run every shock. Um, and once again, we were trying to go do this for
Budget build.
not $1
Yep.
million, and
Well, and these are used shocks off of your Bronco.
yes,
Which,
some
if
of these
anyone's
some of
familiar,
these are used shocks off my Bronco.
yeah, with anyone who's familiar with that Bronco has seen the life that thing's lived,
Yeah,
and those things have been
it's had a rough
beat.
life. That's why the shocks don't look all shiny and
Yeah.
pretty. They're used, but essentially the body's used. Everything else is brand new in them. They got shout out to shockseals.com. Uh,
Yeah, because they got
ordered
the Vitan setup, right?
Yeah, all Vitan seals for all those shocks. I've not had a problem using those. They held up awesome. I mean, we got out of the truck and the rear bypasses were so hot you could hear them boiling.
Yeah, they're boiling over in the bodies.
They were not so happy.
Boiled.
Those shocks have not leaked a drop since then. The shockseals.com seals are awesome. I'm real interested to see what the fluid looks like when I pull them apart. But once again, Schaefer's oil,
Yeah,
that stuff's
we've had really good luck with that too, and it just
awesome.
not.
10 or 11. So I was happy with not being in last. It sucks that other people broke too. Kind of is what it is. But shout out to Caesar, Matt, and Richard for getting up on the podium. I'm really hoping that not necessarily the next race, but one of these days we can kind of be up there with everybody, and that's
I mean, Caesar's got a fast truck.
yeah.
That
Everybody,
thing is
all those
consistent and
dudes,
fast.
all those dudes are very fast trucks, and funny enough, none of those dudes run V8s, which was everybody wants to think that you have to have huge horsepower, big money into a truck, and I mean that does help, but doesn't always mean you're going to finish. That all doesn't always mean you're going to get first place. We're trying to be on the you know limited horsepower, big truck parts, not break anything, and you just got to finish your race. Which obviously we didn't. This next race, hopefully we can. That's where we're going for
At
that.
least go further,
Yeah.
at a minimum.
But we did some really cool stuff, as some of you guys probably watched and or you can check out after this of our live stream in the truck and what we were trying to do with that whole setup. Which I know some of it, but I'm not the computer genius. It's this guy, so I'm gonna let him
Yeah,
describe that.
computer genius adjacent at best. So part of what we wanted to do here is a little bit different as we're kind of doing this live stream here as well. Um, One of the problems I've always particularly had with off-road racing, and I kind of pause to say problem because I don't think it's inherently a problem, but it's a thing that I just wish there was a better way. Uh, when we go off-road racing, it's by its nature kind of a hero sport. You get the guy in the truck that goes and does the race, and that person, maybe with the co-driver, has all the cool stories of all the crazy adventures of doing all the stuff you gotta do the race, and maybe the pit team does to some extent. I know we've had some wild stories chasing
Yeah.
races down in Mexico.
Mexico's a little different than state
Mexico's
racing.
different for sure. Mexico in itself is just a giant adventure. But there's still something about it that it's just like I wish there was a way that we could go racing and take everyone with us. Because to me that sounds like the best, most fun idea ever. To the point that we had a bucket in the shop for a bus fund that we wanted to try and figure out a way to build a short bus to go race mint or something so we could stack 6 to 8 people in the thing. And just go off-road racing with all of our friends in the car with us because we're very much that kind of group of people. And what started the idea of this, or the transition of that, is I believe last year at the 1000, might have been the year prior.
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, time flies. Jeez. We were down in San Felipe watching the 1000, and it was the first year trucks really in earnest started having Starlink on them, and they were live streaming some GoPro footage from the truck. And we were watching a truck come up on Race Mile near where we were staying at the ranch on Zoo Road. And it was kind of a trip sitting there watching this truck go by and knowing that it was right outside the house. And if we
Yeah.
ran out to that course, we could go watch that truck go by.
Yeah, watching live footage of it and then being like, "Oh man, that's coming," and then being able to hear it out the window and being
Yeah.
like, "Oh, the truck just went by."
That was really, really cool. And then there was a point when we were watching that the co-driver pulled out his phone and was switching music, and everyone in the house kind of lit up and was just like talking shit about the music selection. How do we message this guy? And then quickly everyone's trying to figure out how to message this person on Instagram to tell him to pick a better song, just like having a good time about it. And there was a moment there where I definitely sat there and was like, this is it. This is the future and this is how it needs to change. How do we make this an interactive activity?
Yeah, and watching races since then, and people like Fish talking about the problem of like now there's so many in-car cameras. How do you pick who to watch?
Yeah.
Like everybody's got an in-car. That's cool. I mean, just in itself, being able to oh man, I'm gonna watch this guy. I'm gonna watch this guy. You can watch the race, but you can't. You're just watching it. It's just like watching something on TV. You know it's getting filmed. You're not really part or interacting with it.
Well, and this, also what I like have literally said for years is the biggest problem that off-road racing has always had is the ability to televise it. Dust to Glory was great because it was able to go down there and capture it. And if you look at the behind the scenes of how they made that whole film, they got vans full of cameras. They've got multiple dudes on dirt bikes filming, multiple chase crews filming, helicopters filming, and that's what it took in order to televise it. And then there's some like ABC Worldwide Sports where they did like a post-race televise. It wasn't very live. It was very difficult because of its nature how to film this. GoPro and Starlink made the technology affordable and able for people to do it. And now that we're seeing everyone, as Justin was saying, doing it in mass, it's wild. It's a total game changer, and I think it's going to open up a lot of the sport to people to really see what it's like down there. I can see some people's arguments, better for worse. Some of the mystery and the danger of like going down to Baja and not really knowing what's going on is part of the fun. Like, let's not lie to ourselves here. Um, but seeing all that, I was like, there's got to be a way we can do this. That my first primary goal was like, how do we stream this in a way that all of our friends at Pitt, even if no one else watches this on the internet, is there with us in the truck. And we can do a video, they can see us, and we hot mic the comms. So they hear our entire intercom and they can talk to us as if they're in the truck in the back seat.
Yeah, there is no secrets in the truck.
There's no secrets in the truck no more, which is great. At some point in the video, you can hear in the background everyone sitting in the motorhome. It was like 95 degrees out there. Also, by the way,
It's pretty warm.
it was pretty warm. So we had the motorhome going with the AC, and everyone stacked inside of it. And you can hear him in the background through Tony's microphone, yelling at us to like talk more, be funny, and just having a good time. And that was honestly what this was all about. But of course, this was our first attempt at streaming this. I am not a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer.
Yeah, we are not social media people.
We are not
This
social
was,
media people.
a new dive into stuff.
For sure.
We got it to work in the driveway real well.
Yeah, we got it. I mean, I don't need.
I don't
Did
okay,
we?
Maybe not real well.
Maybe
we got
not,
it to work.
Yeah, we got it to kind of work in the driveway. And initially, I had a much more complicated audio setup that was just not working. It was not reliable, and it relied on some Python scripts to work, and it just wasn't great. Um, so the night before the race, I was up till 3 a.m. in bed trying to figure out how we just do this better. Um, and then it dawned on me at some point that there is a way we could use the phones via Starlink and calls to stream video calls in order to kind of hack our way into getting an in-car um, in-car angle, which is what you see facing us at our faces when we're in the car, and then the GoPro streams out as well, and then it all gets mixed together. And a huge thank you to the man, the myth, the legend, and Tony, who is sitting right behind this monitor right now, helping us produce this podcast as well. Um, he bared with me as I struggled to get this all incorporated while we're on a laptop and I can't see the screen because I'm blind and I'm trying to rattle off Linux commands to him while he's typing them in for me.
This all would have probably been a tad bit easier.
But we were at home with a monitor setup.
Well, also, we were trying to get this to work before the race started, just not worrying about it.
Yep.
And then
Plenty
we
of
were just
time.
like, well, this is weird. Let's try to get the GoPro to link and make sure everything was running. Like, it won't link. It's like the server's not there. Nothing's working. Nothing's working. Nothing's working. Like, it's like the server at home is not talking. And I was like, that's weird. I wonder if we have internet. Get on my phone and try to look at my security cameras at my house and go, oh, I can't get on my security cameras. Go on Facebook and funny enough, look and there's no internet in town. Up where we live in Tehachapi,
which has never happened up
yeah,
here.
race has been super solid.
Yeah, we have fiber
Fiber is-
internet
yeah,
everywhere.
Fiber is always
Rock
awesome.
solid.
The one day that we really need it to work,
It goes down.
there's no internet at home,
Oh.
and it's like, oh man,
And it's
they'll-
the epitome of desert racing.
yeah,
Like everything about this is just like, yeah, that's desert.
They'll probably get it fixed because we have 3 hours left. What are we gonna do for a backup? If just in case, and luckily that worked because internet did not
It
come
never came
back
back
up
up.
until like 4 o'clock in the
Yeah,
afternoon.
it never came back up. So Tony and I were in the motorhome, spooling up a Linux server in the cloud and building all the necessary tool chains to get the stream to work, and then get the GoPros to connect to everything and the calls to connect to everything. Um, this stream shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's
By all accounts, it should not have happened.
this is where
everything
it's nice
went
to have a
wrong.
computer guy because
I don't
I don't know anything about that. I'm more of a hardware. I'll build the truck. I have no idea how to program any of this stuff.
Yeah, it came down to such the last minute that the GoPro, what you see is captured locally on the GoPro, but didn't go out to the stream, is me running through the motorhome and the camp with the GoPro in my hand, throwing it to Justin. And in the audio of the actual clip, you can hear me yelling at him, "Don't touch the buttons!" And he's like, "Yeah, got it. Don't touch the buttons."
Yeah. So what you're seeing right here is literally we're already getting ready to I have my fire
We're
suit
suited
on.
and booted.
We're getting ready to get in the truck because I was like, we just can't deal with this anymore. Man.
We gotta go.
We gotta get up to the starting
Yep.
line. We're going racing right now. I know this is part of what we're trying to do. It doesn't matter if we can't go race. If we don't go race, this doesn't matter. This is
Yeah,
literally
this
me.
is secondary.
I'm putting the thing in the truck, and he's yelling at me, "Don't touch any of the
Yep,
buttons. Don't touch
it's
anything.
finally working. Don't touch it.
Just put it in the
Just
truck."
go.
Which got it in the
We
truck,
did.
and it was rock solid. We had
Yeah,
no problem streaming with it.
we had some issues that were definitely on the execution of the streaming via YouTube side. A certain child, that may or may not be mine, stepped on the Starlink cable at camp and severed it. So we lost internet briefly and had to restart the stream. And then we lost power. A generator died at one point. So we now have learned lessons that Starlink goes on UPS backup away from children.
Yep.
That probably would have said, honestly, of the big issues we had with
Yeah.
the stream, that would solve
There
most
were a
of
few
them.
spots there where we're streaming out. They couldn't. They obviously lost internet back at camp. That's why the audio is kind of weird on that live stream if you watch it. Obviously, if you watch the cleaned up one that we posted,
It's
there's
a little better.
it's a little better. It's a little cleaner.
Yep.
You know, everything looks good. But I mean, it worked.
Yep.
That was our big thing. This was a test of, will the truck last? Will the truck,
Big
how's the
tech
truck gonna
demo.
do? How's the tech gonna do?
Yep.
A lot of people have talked about they've had problems before with Starlink cutting in and out. Uh,
Everything, the way our setup works is it was very robust. When it lost connection, it reconnected, and that was my important feature and everything I was trying to make was like, I don't care if it works 100% of the time, just when it fails, it reconnects,
yeah,
which it did, and it was awesome. We could hot mic, and Tony could talk to us back at the base, and we could talk to
yeah,
Tony.
it was super awesome being able to, like, I mean, we've got a really awesome rugged radio set up in the truck.
Yeah.
Their M.O.R.E race radio.
And the intercom setup
Yeah,
was
their
rock solid.
intercom with the
Like,
Bluetooth, and like that's ended up
that
how
part
we,
all
yeah,
works
that's how
great.
we had comms the whole time.
Yep.
Is I mean, it works awesome every time I've used it, but luckily we didn't have to use the race radio. We used the Starlink with the Bluetooth to the intercom through a phone to stream out, so we could talk to them, they could talk to us. We had zero comm problems. It was cool not being like, oh, we're in a valley or something like that. And we'll hit you on the backside. Like it just worked.
Yep.
We were calling out race miles the whole time. They were talking back to us. When we were coming into the pits. I wasn't having to like, "Oh, where's the push to talk?" Like, no, it was just say it, and they're gonna know it's there. But it was really awesome having the race radio as a backup just in case all this failed.
It was weird almost not having typical we lose radio contact in between certain areas, like never
Yeah,
having
which
that,
is,
for lack of a better word, never having that fear
I
again
mean,
was different.
and shout out to M.O.R.E for this too, is they have their race relay set up, and it's generally, not too bad. You're not too spotty out there. You get
Yeah, you can get
pretty
race
good,
relay
yeah,
pretty
you
much
get pretty
everywhere.
good coverage out there. But just knowing, like, cool, that is our backup this time. We have our comms going through the Starlink, and if that fails, we have a reliable backup through the race radio.
And one of the cool like things we realized once we broke through the truck is like, hey, I've got a phone that I can stream video with, and we can talk to the phone when we're not plugged in with headsets to the car.
Yeah, it was cool walking around the pit while we're in pit. Once we figured out the truck was broken and we weren't really gonna be able to continue to pull the phone out and go around the truck and say like, oh, this is what we're seeing live right now. Like, yeah, look, there's the broken radius arm, there's the bent beam. Um, you know,
And kind of walk through with the audience like what was going on because we had like our pit people grab the phone. We were standing there like, oh wait, we're streaming with a phone right now.
yeah.
Grab the phone. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I was much more worried about like, can
Yeah,
we fix the truck to keep going? And somebody had the forethought to like, oh, grab the phone and we can
we
like
can talk through this
we can
with
watch
everyone.
this. Everybody that's watching this right now can go with us and look and like, oh yeah, our one of our good friends Wes was sitting at home and he's like, man, what's going on? Like, what's broken? And it's
Yeah,
like, hey, uh,
we're done.
the beam's trying to fold in on itself.
Which imagine that setup how many times in Mexico if we would have had that, like what that would have saved us in just like years of my life from stress gone away. Right? Like
Yeah.
if when Bree broke down in San Felipe with the 16 car,
Yeah,
like we would have been like,
being able to be
oh,
like, cool, you
okay,
guys are safe. We're still coming to get
okay,
to you as fast as possible.
stand by.
But I'm not like, we're not. Oh God, what's actually did the car on fire? We don't know.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it was cool to be able to pull it out while we're in the pits and go through and look and be like, oh man, check this out. Yeah, it's broken. Hey, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get back in the truck. We're gonna finish this lap. Put the phone back in the truck. Like, let's keep going. It was pretty awesome. Like, everybody's got a live cam in their vehicle, not everybody has the ability to communicate to you guys sitting at home watching this.
And that's one of the, I think the big things that we're really especially going to push for going forward. We had the YouTube chat and everything where we stream multi-streaming to YouTube and Twitch and others like go live on Instagram and all that fun stuff. Where the chat where like you sitting at home viewing can ask questions or participate in whatever ways, and the people working like Tony working as producer on this can relay questions to us and we can answer things and have conversations as we're going back to that
Unfortunately, can always make it to every race. But, maybe they're sitting at home and they can, like, cool, I'm going to tune in while, I'm doing these other things and I can still talk to my friends. I can still be like, it's like I'm there, they get the interaction with us and it's pretty cool. And then,
And I think we've got some future ideas. I mean, everyone's got ideas of all the fun stuff they want to do, but there's some really cool, I think, stuff you could do with this idea of streaming. I would love to see like the Class 2000 guys get together and do more of a collaborative effort with it. I think that could be super fun if we got a few of us trucks with Starlinks and GoPros and be able to do kind of a muck stream between trucks and be able to see passes and find ways to plumb intercoms truck to truck. So as you're passing, I mean, bring it back to the 1450 Desert Rangers days of, talking shit over radios and all that fun stuff. I think that could be a lot of fun. Definitely some other viewer participation things. It is definitely possible, and we know how to have people call into the truck.
yeah.
So that could be super fun.
Now that we've got the first one out of the way
Yeah.
and working with the different platforms and stuff, we found some really cool features that are definitely going to be implemented in
I think
upcoming races.
I think there's just some really like silly, kind of stupid stuff that, going back to being inspired by the book of the piece, right? We're out here trying to have fun.
Yeah.
I think somewhere in desert racing, a lot of this got taken really seriously. I'm trying to go back to like the 1450 days of '05, '05 to '08, and
Yeah, that's.
I think we
I
can do
mean,
some really silly shit with it
it's a race. We're trying to be as serious as possible, but at the same
for
time,
sure.
it's like, man,
If
if
we're
I'm
not
not
having
having
fun,
fun,
why are we
why
here?
am I out here,
Yeah,
spending all this money and doing all this stuff if I can't have a good time with my friends? If it's to the point where I'm like, oh, this is like work, I don't, and some dudes, it's definitely, they have big sponsors.
oh,
They're out
you're
there.
fielding a $500,000 truck. I get
Yeah,
it. I totally get it.
this is very serious for them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Class 2000 isn't serious, but it can definitely more lighthearted.
But budget build garage
Yeah,
trucks, right? That's the spirit of the class, I feel.
we're trying to win, but we're also trying to have more fun.
Yeah,
That's kind of where we're at with this, and
for sure.
that's hopefully this next one we can get a lot more people in. But obviously we're rushed right down to the the wire on this last race. If we're trying to get it out a little bit more ahead of time, get people you know interacting and just more fun. That's where we're
Yeah.
going. That's this whole thing is to be as fun as possible.
When I was explaining all this to Doug at Rugged over a phone call, he was helping me with some technical stuff of trying to get all the audio plumbed in and out to the different feeds. He stopped and said, this sounds like you're trying to have a party in your truck, and I thought that was probably one of the best explanations. I was like, absolutely, like yeah, we go race, but we can party while we do it, right? Leaf Spring's
Yeah,
pretty hardware for a reason,
it
for sure.
definitely weird going from pretty much every truck I've built having links because I wanted
Yeah,
it to be smooth and go
I
faster and being like, no, it's purposely build a leaf sprung truck and it
I think that was as a passenger, especially having ridden in all of obviously your trucks a mile in. I'm like, man, leaf springs suck.
yeah.
Why did we do this? This is
And,
terrible.
and then they started working
But they worked all right.
then it started working a little better and then at the end it was like, whoo,
Man, there was a reason we
there was
started building trucks with the links. This is
there was some
weird.
stuff that we definitely came into a little hotter than expected and
The
it
leaf
was
spring buck was
yeah,
interesting.
it was once the shocks kind of went away, there was a couple of things we hit, a couple G outs, and I was like, oh man, we're holding on this thing. But it was it was an awesome time, and as soon as I realized the truck was broken, I was like, yeah, I could be mad and be like, oh man, I spent all this money, and I'm gonna have to spend all this extra money to fix a truck. But that wasn't even in my mind. It was, I don't care how much we have to spend. This is awesome. I'm having a great time with all my friends. We're gonna go
We're
do
gonna
this
figure it
more.
out. The moment I don't know about you, but for me, like when we walked back into the motorhome after we pulled in, I know I was dying hot.
Oh yeah,
Everything was broken, and I opened the motorhome door and we stepped in, and everybody was in there. And as soon as we opened up, it was like everyone yelling at me to have a conversation at once.
yeah.
Of like, this was cool and that was cool, and then I saw that and
There's
that, and that
so
was
many
like,
ideas that came
yeah,
right there.
that
It
was like immediate in my head was like, oh, we did it right.
yeah.
Whatever it was,
Every
we did it right.
I mean, we've gone to tons of races, and it's like,
Yeah, these are
cool.
all the
This
same
this is
people.
awesome. Like, yeah, we'll go back out and watch another race. But the fact that everybody was just as excited as we were
Yeah,
getting out of the truck and being like, "Oh man, we went racing finally." That was dope.
that
To
that was what I
everybody
was
in the
looking
pit
for.
and everybody at
Yeah,
home that I talked to after, and them just being like, "Oh, it was so awesome to, see you guys out there racing and be able to like." It was like I was in the truck with you. It's like I was in
yeah.
the third seat, and we're
That
like,
that
"Cool,
was what
that's what we want to do."
that's exactly what we wanted to do, and I knew we hit it when we walked in the motorhome. Was like, we did it. This was exactly what I wanted to do. I don't care if anyone else ever watches this on YouTube. That's not the point at
Yeah,
this point.
no, that's
Like,
like cool. Do our friends have a good time?
yeah,
Awesome. Can we open this up and maybe get people that aren't as into desert racing, to watch this and be like, oh, let's this is pretty cool and start looking into it and be like, oh, well, these dudes went and did it for, not a crazy amount of money. Like, yeah,
yeah.
not everybody's gonna,
You can go do this.
I spent a lot of money in times when I not shouldn't have, but just I made those conscious
Credit cards have
decisions.
payments.
Yeah, that happened a little bit
That
too.
happens.
I made the conscious decision at times to be like, well, if I go buy these parts right now, I'm not going to go do this.
Yep.
Which, luckily I have an awesome fiance that
Thanks,
didn't
Christina.
didn't stab me
Yeah.
when times when I'd be like, oh, I went and spent a bunch of money on parts. We're sitting at home this weekend and next weekend now. Uh, but and then same thing. Not everybody's going to build a truck in what was like 4.5 months or whatever of just when it's August and it's 100 degrees outside and you're sitting in a shop by yourself because everybody else is smarter than you and sitting in the house with the AC on and you're just out there sweating and you're like, no, we're gonna get there. We're gonna go do it. You could take your time a little bit more
Yeah.
and spread it out over a little bit more. This is
This
definitely
is attainable.
yeah. Anybody can go do this
This
with
is
a little
attainable.
bit of a knowledge and friends definitely help. Having some friends that have knowledge and the want to go do fun stuff with you.
I mean, and I think there is an argument made of, right, it took us 20 years to get to the point where we have a shop in our
Yeah.
backyard. We have tools. We have, I mean, we're sitting behind a Ford Aerostar with a race roll cage in it right now, which is a whole nother story.
Yeah, that'll
Um,
probably be another
that's a
thing
whole
that we
nother
talk about.
video. That's a Lemons car. It's not ours, but we are definitely helping a bunch of young people that are
They want to go
they want to
race.
go race and they're putting in the work. So they're in here and we're teaching them how to fab and how to build cages. So that's super fun, but that's a whole nother story for a different day, probably another video. But on that note of spending money in parts, what's next?
So obviously the front of the truck is not destroyed, but it's not usable. It did drive on the trailer and off the trailer, which was if you're gonna break
That's a
something,
bonus.
yeah, if you're gonna break something, being able to still drive it is awesome. Um, we've already started. Yeah, I mean, I probably wasn't out of the truck for 15 minutes before I was already like,
Oh, we
what?
were talking beam
Yeah,
designs.
what are
Yeah.
we doing?
Yep.
So coming
Because let's
up,
be honest, that's actually the fun part you and I are in this for
yeah,
too,
I love
right? Like,
building stuff.
how do we design and build something?
Uh, our next rendition of the truck is kind of already nailed down. Still working on some stuff, but also
We're not
super.
having Dana 44 beam housings.
No, we,
Those are going away
the ends. The only thing we're using from those beam is the ends and the knuckles. Those we're gonna keep.
because those are
Uh,
race ready from Ford. Those
yes,
are ready to go.
Ford made trophy truck stuff back in
Yep.
the day. DIY off road, which I've used a couple times for some stuff, just because not necessarily that I can't design it,
Save time.
but the amount of time it takes me to design something in SolidWorks and you know put it into a model and be like, yeah, that works.
And sometimes
DFX
find out it
it.
doesn't work.
Yeah, sometimes there's been things I've designed and
Yep.
it works on a computer, does not work in real life. DIY off road though, I've already looked into it. Like, cool, we're gonna get Baker Fab's equal length beam mounts. Boom, that's gonna go on the Ranger real easy. We have the plasma table right here. We'll end up cutting all that stuff out. But for the price that I can buy DFX files, saves me a bunch of time. Which you always have time or money.
Yeah, never both.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
stuff way easier just to spend a little bit of money, get the DFX files, and I mean, not everybody also has a 5x10 plasma table
I
sitting
mean, that's certainly
in
convenient.
their shop, so it's super easy. You send it out to SendCut Send or something like that, and boom, you have those parts you can weld together.
Well, now we get to focus time on building the beam.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to spend most of my time is beam design. Definitely going to make something a lot stronger than a. I mean, my factory Dana 44 beams were plated and they had ribs in them and stuff. Like they weren't not strong. They still swished, they still folded and just don't hit with these kids. Uh, so yeah, we're gonna design a new set of beams for it, new set of radius arms. Probably
Like
do a tube and plate radius arm setup.
move a fuel cell.
Yeah, some other stuff that we noticed. When I built the truck originally, like I said, it had F-31s on it, and I already knew they were going to be a little soft, so I tried to do some stuff that, in hindsight, I should have built the truck to go racing, not to what I had. So we're going to pull the truck back in here, also move the fuel cell from behind the cab to behind the axle, change the spare tire mounts a little bit, try to get a lot more weight over the back of the truck, and help get the front end to pop up. The four-cylinder does have good points where that thing is super light, so it keeps the front of the truck really light. Um, but also on that, I don't want to go away from the four-cylinder. I kind of like it. I like that it's simple, it's
I think
light.
it's a great insurance policy.
I can find a million of them for super
Yeah.
cheap. So
You have
it's
3 of them sitting on here in stands and just be throwing them
it's
away.
gonna get a little, gonna get
Just
some
freshen it up. It had what,
some
200,000
Esslinger
miles?
parts.
200,000
Yeah, it
miles
had
on
like
it? Yeah.
250,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pull the motor out, throw some better forged pistons at it. Uh, Probably deck the head. Definitely is going to get a better
It needs
cam.
compression.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going
compression
to
and
get some
cam.
compression. It's going to get a bigger cam in it. I'm going to pull the head off, and luckily that truck already has the better D-shaped windows on the head. Get after some important polishing. It's already got the roller rockers, which is good. Throw a header on it. Uh, do a little porting in the intake, and try to squeeze out a little bit more than the 98 horsepower.
Maybe we get 98 to the wheels.
Yeah, if I could have
That'd be a big
98 to the
step up.
wheels, I'd be a little happier. We're gonna try. I'm trying to shoot for. I'm trying to go for like the 110, 115 to the tires. That'd be a 30, 40% almost increase of what the truck has now. Uh, Depending on what budget looks like and time constraints, might throw a set of go from the 542 gears to a set of 60 gears and just try to give that truck a fighting chance of keeping up with everybody. We're definitely underpowered, um, but that's okay because that
That was the point.
first race was don't give it a bunch of horsepower. Don't throw it to where it's going to break parts. Like it's real hard to break chromoly axles inside of a 9-inch with 98 horsepower and 35s,
Turns out.
which was awesome because we didn't hurt any of that stuff. We just hurt the beam. But on that, our next race, unfortunately, we're not going to hit the July race. Uh, at
This
Glen
dude's
Helen.
going and getting married, so
There's that.
there's that.
It also is river season, and I would pretty much like to go use my boat. Also, I have to build a whole front end on a truck, and I just don't have the time right now to try to get my boat ready for river season, cut the front of the truck off, build an entire new front suspension, test it, tune it. We're gonna try to be a little smarter. Obviously, we missed the first race of the year because the truck wasn't completely ready. So missing one more race isn't, a terrible thing. This is our year to get the truck kind of dialed in, get ourselves dialed in, get the whole live stream dialed in, get everything dialed in, so that way next year we can kind of attack this in a more ready state and
Yeah, more organized fashion.
be ready to go. So the next race for us is going to be the PCI 300 in Johnson Valley in September 27th, which I'm pretty
I think we
confident that
I think we make
gives us 4 months. The truck can be a lot more ready. I'll be a lot more ready. He'll be a lot more ready.
Maybe. We'll
Well,
see.
yeah. We'll have some more bugs worked out with the whole live stream thing. Maybe find some more features that we didn't know about, which will be awesome because that'll let you guys, have a better viewing of what's going on. And then really hoping that we don't break the truck on that, and it's still good to go, and/or something small to fix because after that, the Powder Puff race. I think it's the second week in October. /X. We're gonna try to get the wives in the truck to go run that thing. We same thing. We wanted to go out last year. Truck wasn't ready. We did go out and support it because
Yeah, we
Powder
did go
Puff is
show
super
support. Yeah.
awesome. I remember, you know, watching a couple of those races way back in the day, and just like that's cool. It gives them a chance to the wives to get a chance to go jump in the truck and go have some fun, and then we get to support them. So kind of looking forward to that. Which same thing. It gives us enough time to get the truck ready. It gets them. We'll get them a little seat time in the truck. You know, Fun for everybody.
Yeah.
I envisioned building this truck with the goal of how many of
Not being afraid to
yeah
hand the keys to someone.
how many of me and my friends can go race. How can we get more people in the truck? Building the
Because
truck to
even
where we
like
can't hurt it.
even a 16 car is hard to do that with because there's stuff where you got to like, hey, don't use reverse. It's sprag gears this small on it, right?
Yeah,
And you got to drive them at the top of the RPM and keep in the power band. You got to quick shift the hell out. Like they're they're difficult to drive right.
yeah. That and I mean that's why it's still
Still, yeah,
sitting back there.
sitting on the chassis
It's
table.
been there for like a year and a half. Um, but yeah, we're trying to go out and have as much fun. So that's kind of where we're going with the future of everything. Trying to get better live stream for you guys, so you guys can have more fun too. Trying to
Yeah,
get the truck to work better, so we can do a whole race and
we
just
we definitely want this to be a super interactive thing because I think that's part of the fun bit of it. We're always, I know lots of people get annoyed with me because I can be overbearing, but I'm always trying to get more people into the sport, into what we're doing because I think it's a really cool way to learn engineering and some math stuff. And I'm a big old nerd like that. If someone would have sat down and taught us geometry through a roll cage on a whiteboard, I think all of us would have done a lot better in school.
yeah.
So that's something I'm always trying to close that gap with people. So the chat, all that stuff, asking questions is great. We'd love to answer them. Of course, in desert racing fashion, we lost the internet right before this stream started. So I have no ability to see chat on my computer right now. So Tony will have to tell me if we have any questions. Um,
Yeah, so we've got for example, we've got I do stuff saying stock to race truck in 4 months is wild.
Yeah.
That was
yeah, 4 month truck build. I think a lot of people.
yeah. Watching a lot of other people
It's rough.
when I was still trying to figure out if this was something I mean, I've wanted to do this since I was a little kid. Wasn't obtainable. Watching other people spend 2-3 years building a race truck and being like, I mean, that's probably the smarter way to do it. Take your time. You still go have fun and do stuff. And I'm like,
I mean, how often we wire in lights on the trailer when we pull in Dakatia, though?
yeah.
I feel like it's
As
just on
kids, it was
brand.
working on stuff either leaving the house or when we got to the desert, like, well, the
Yeah.
truck's not ready.
Throwing a box with a spool of wire and
Yeah.
connectors and be like, throw it in
And
the bed of the truck.
it worked. It just didn't look very pretty,
Yeah.
and it didn't always work.
And
after
then you
that.
didn't update it when you went back home. You
Yeah,
just let it
'cause
ride.
worked. Taking that 4 months definitely was testing my sanity occasionally.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, and props to you. I've always said that Justin's superpower is his ability to just do it. I will think things into eternity and never actually finish anything.
yeah.
Justin is definitely the 180 of that. And it's
Yeah.
very impressive to watch.
Once I pick a
sometimes.
direction, we're going.
We're
Right or
moving.
wrong, it's gonna happen.
We are trying a thing.
We've also got Lena in the chat.
Huh?
They say that they slapped the more fun button, but also can they see that tater?
Not right now. This is YouTube.
You have to get on my
subscribe to
OnlyFans for that one.
We've got Addie in the chat saying hi, Dad.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Addie.
And then a question from Steven. He says, how much engine modification is allowed within the class?
So that is
Toto.
yeah. Whatever. How deep is your pocketbook?
Yeah.
Class
You
2000.
want NASCAR motor in that
Yeah.
thing? Send it.
There really only two rules. Obviously, leaf springs attached to a stock frame rail on the front leaf spring hanger, the back kind of open, and steel cab working doors. Aside from that, you can get pretty aggressive with things. You can go as far as you feel like spending money.
Which is interesting, I think, because when the class started back in the Desert Ranger days, when they were still like hashing out the rules and what everyone kind of wanted the class to be, it initially started with a V6 only class.
Yeah, it was
and
V6 and
like,
under.
as delivered from factory motor option.
You could put whatever motor you wanted, but it had to be a V6, and it was kind of like what was available in this. At some point, I want to say in 2010-ish, the class had a vote on letting V8s in, and it was, I believe, you could run a V8, but you had to have a full size truck to run that. You couldn't put like a V8 in a Ranger. And then it also, it grew from there to where people were like, well, I blew up my V6. I want to be able to put a V8 in. And it kind of, expanded. Some people be like, oh, it's not what it was meant to be. These dudes out here running huge horsepower V8s and stuff. And, it's kind of intimidating when we were sitting in line.
Dude, that Blazer.
Uh, yeah,
That Blazer
that
rang
Blazer
freedom
was
aggressively.
vibrating my head, but
Yeah.
it sounded amazing.
Yeah, dude.
But that was one of those like, cool. That dude's probably gonna blow my doors off. That's
Oh,
fine.
that motor's worth more than the whole truck.
Yeah,
Right.
that was one of those like, oh man, that dude's gonna be fast, but we just have to survive. Which I believe that they had cooling problems and he didn't finish either. But that was one of those like, just because you
Which
have
I
a
believe
lot.
that was his first race too, right?
Yeah, that was a brand new build too.
Yeah, brand new build.
But that was one of those like, you can have a lot of money into your truck, huge motor, huge parts, they still break.
Yep. Welcome
It,
to
it,
desert.
it, there is no such thing as bulletproof when it comes to desert racing. Stuff will still break. So, you
That's
can have a
life.
huge motor, and having more horsepower is on the menu for us, but not crazy amounts.
We're working off the dollar menu at McDonald's right
Yeah,
now.
we're
Steven followed
Not.
up with he wants to see a Honda K swap.
I mean, you can definitely do
Steven
that.
can do a K swap in his truck all he wants. And we don't support
I
communism.
mean, I did think about maybe throwing a 2JZ in
That's
it 'cause
different.
I thought that'd be
Yeah,
awesome,
I'd
but
support 2JZ. Hold on. That's different.
we'll see what happens. Maybe if this motor like has a rapid disassembly
Go parts rich.
and Uncle Rodney comes knocking,
Yeah.
that might be a little different on how much more money I want to spend on the 4 cylinder, and maybe throw 2J in there because why not? But for now, we're trying to keep it still, as budget friendly. We're gonna, try not to go spend $5,000 on 4 cylinder parts. We're gonna try to do this kind of
We could just
budgeted.
go buy a Coyote motor off Facebook.
Yeah,
Marketplace
that
for
was also a thought, but
how cheap they are now.
we want to keep the 4 cylinder for
Yeah.
now, and we're gonna see what we can do with it and make it reliable and make the truck just a little bit more competitive. We got the fun one out of the way. We're still gonna go have fun. I'd like to be able to keep up with at least somebody. Not just have everybody be like, "Oh man, oh, that was
something."
that was the last guy, and he is gone."
We got Wes and Infamous Jay saying, when is it getting the turbo with the boosty?
I actually thought about that too. Uh,
I,
my my only worry is putting a turbo on there
More
because that
parts.
thing, that whole race, my foot was, it couldn't go any further to the floor. Uh,
But
I'm,
it's also just this more parts, more complexity in a desert
yeah,
truck thing. Like,
I'm worried about burning that motor down. And I thought about this too, running low amounts of boost, maybe
yeah,
8
you
to 10
get away with it,
psi.
make the motor survive.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could do it. It's just
but
like
I'm
that. Just
still
seems like
worried about
more
just
a
if
boost tube pops, a
if my
leak in a
foot
boot. Like,
if my foot is stuck to the floor for miles, how angry is that little motor going to be with 10 psi for 15 minutes? Just
I mean, Tractor Supply does sell turbo kits.
they
Is what
do.
I hear.
I have turbo
Yeah.
stuff with Tractor Supply's help, but
It definitely works.
and some eBay parts were also
eBay for sure.
So I'm not saying that's out of the the realm
We
of
don't know.
possibilities,
We
but
don't know.
this time we're gonna go for NA, and if that still ain't working, then
Once that motor sends the rod to God,
yeah, if that motor pops,
Things might
it's
change.
very possible that it gets a 2J with a moderately sized turbo. Because
I mean, even just
why
a
not?
2J, a healthy 2J,
Yeah,
would
that
be a
would also
rocket ship in comparison.
yeah, that's more horsepowers.
We've got another question from Leah here. They say for mechanical brakes, what is allowed to be replaced in the field versus what is not? Does it depend on the race? Is anything not allowed?
I don't think it's so much a factor of what's not allowed, but what you have time for. It's not a score race where
Yeah.
we're racing for 48 hours.
Yeah, it's not. From my understanding, I mean, if we
I'm sure you're not supposed to swap motors and trans.
yeah,
in the
that
field,
also inherently
but you
comes
don't
with
have
spilling
time.
stuff.
Yeah, there's no way you have time.
But as far as I know, you can swap whatever parts you feel like you can swap and still continue racing in the 5 hour window we were given to go do
Yeah.
180 miles.
Because I mean, we've definitely swapped a motor on the side of the highway in Mexico during a score race, which you're not supposed to do.
No, was it
quote
spark plug change?
unquote. Yeah, this is allegedly.
It was a
May or
spark
may
plug
not.
change.
It was a spark plug change. But you also we had like what 24 hours to do that race or something. So
Yeah, it
pulling a
was
Volkswagen motor and taking 2 hours to
a lot
swap.
more than 5.
Yeah,
I was already worried that our average speed was already going to be low to try to finish the 7 laps.
yeah.
But
Even if we had pulled a welder out, weld that radius arm, I don't.
yeah, that
We would have been able to finish 2 laps.
yeah, we would have been able to finish a few more laps. It will, 180 miles in 5 hours is not hard for everybody. But I didn't think the truck was going to have the top speed to be able to go through some of that stuff. I mean, we were doing pretty decent. We weren't crazy off what pace I wanted to run with the stop to strap the spare tires back
Yeah.
in, and then us spending probably just shy of 10 minutes in the pit, going, oh, it's broken. What are we going to do?
Because I think out of curiosity, we did the math and subtracted the spare tire tie down and the
Yeah,
pit.
I think we spent, didn't really do great math, but 9 to 11 minutes between those two and crossing the finish line, and I want to say we had a 54-minute lap.
Well, and it bumped us up like 3 spots had we not done those.
Yeah,
It was something
we
ridiculous.
we would have been not. I think we would have been in like 5th place or something like that.
Yeah.
If we could have kept cruising. So we weren't crazy off the pace, but we definitely weren't on the pace I wanted. It's also, with the limited horsepower, it's hard to try to get the truck in deep sand to, keep rolling and coming around corners and stuff. There was just not the
Also, just learning what a race pace is and what feels
yeah
right on the truck. It's different. Go Nagatia hundreds of times with trucks. You go and you drive for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then you stop and bullshit.
yeah.
You go drive 10 minutes.
This
It's a
was
totally different pace of
sitting
driving.
there and being like, oh man, I'm about to strap myself in this truck and we're gonna be in it for at least 5 hours.
Or until it breaks.
Yeah.
Whichever happens first.
And turns out that it was
The
54
latter.
minutes when it broke.
Yep.
Not 5 hours. But yeah, it was an experience. And it was a pretty awesome experience that we're gonna go do again.
For sure.
A lot more times, hopefully.
That's pretty much all I've got for chat. Just Lena saying that they miss you.
Sweet. We miss you too, Lena.
Should come out for a race.
Come out. Come out, come racing. Come out, everyone, come racing. Yeah, so I think everyone knows what to do with social stuff these days. Like, comment, all that fun stuff. Let us know if there's anything else you guys want to see specifically. It's interesting. There's always something crazy going on in the shop here. There was a Raptor in here yesterday, the day before. We got a Ford Aerostar race van going on right now. We've got 2 trucks sitting outside waiting their turn to come in the shop and get some more dumb stuff done to them, I'm
The
sure.
race truck, even as broken as it is, will
Yeah.
be driven back over, the
That's
2
gotta
miles from my
happen.
house back over to here to once again get cut in half.
Yeah, you can find us here on YouTube on the channel you're at right now, and we have got a channel on Twitch going. It's the FBR, as well as Instagram on the
Yeah.
FBR. Should be easy to find.
Yeah,
Sweet.
the FBR, and then I think my personal is, I think, just
Flyby
at Flyby Racing.
Yeah, Flyby
It's
Racing.
super easy.
Which that you can go back that for years and see all the other stupid stuff.
Yeah,
we've
all the
done with
other
trucks
builds
for a
we've
long
had,
time.
all the other questionable decisions with life that have been made. But yeah, hopefully you guys are, into this stuff and can come, join the chat next time and go racing with us again. Because as much as we're doing it for us, like we're kind of doing it for everybody else to go have a good time too. So with all of our friends being able to watch and new people being able to watch, should be awesome.
Yeah.
says all the poor choices.
All the poor choices.
All our poor choices lead to good times, though.
Yeah, at least
They're not just poor choices.
At least I make fun bad decisions.
I'm investing in everybody's fun.
Yeah. For sure.
Stephen, a parting comment here. He wants to see this live stream stuff adapted to bikes. I think you'd have to strap a Starlink on it.
So someone did
Yeah,
live
there,
stream.
there are guys that have done that.
Baja bike this past year with a Starlink on his back.
I crashed too much.
It's how confident are you in riding? That's rough.
It would be cool to do. I don't know if bike stuff will get added to the live stream
once the
just
Starlink
yet.
gets into phones.
Yeah, once Starlink's in a phone, that's a little different.
Yeah.
I haven't raced a bike in probably 2 seasons, which I do kind of miss doing that. I'm not saying I'm going to go, full bore into that again, because trying to race with trucks, and if we're trying to balance that stuff, but there, for sure, you might see some bike stuff pop up here on the channel.
Yeah.
Here in the future. That was a good time.
Well, and the fun part about the bike stuff is back to the whole off-road sport being a hero sport and taking everyone with us is everyone got to race bikes.
Yep.
I always thought that was really cool. Is everyone got to leave the start line on a bike.
Yeah, those are some of those races can get pretty gnarly, but some of those races are also designed for if you can confidently ride your dirt bike, around and navigate some stuff, you could go run a race.
Yeah.
It wasn't racing, the Baja 1000 where it's like, man, you got to train for, months and you have to be on like
The
no.
logistics support.
Can you go ride a
yeah,
dirt bike for 30 miles? Awesome, go send it.
You can probably go do it. For sure. Well, with that, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, have a good Memorial Day.
See ya.